Good morning, dear students. In the last class, we have discussed about the testing of starch and proteins. Already we have tested about the proteins in the food items. How can we test the food items if it is contain the proteins? We have to take the copper sulfate and caustic soda, and when we are adding to the food item, it will be turned into the violet color. Okay, if it is turned into the violet color means we can identify that food items contains the proteins. And for starch, how can we identify the if any food item contains the starch means we have to take the iodine solution and crush the food item and add the some water, so we can add iodine. Then that food item's solution color will be changes into blue black. Then we can identify that is that food item contains the starch. Now today I am going to discuss about the testing of fats. Before that we are discussed about the starch and proteins. Now today I am going to discuss about the fat. How can we test for fats? If food item contains any fats means how can we test? Here, test for fat, we have to take a small quantity of a food item. First we have to take the small quantity of the food item, and that food item we can wrap it in a piece of paper. We can wrap it in a piece of paper and crush it. We have to take the small quantity of food item and wrap it in a piece of paper and crush it. Take care that the paper does not tear. When we are crushing the paper, take care of that the paper does not tear. Now straighten the paper and observe it. Now straighten the paper and observe it. Observe it carefully. Observe it carefully. Does it have an oily patch? When we are straighten the paper, when we are observing the paper, it is having an oily patch. Once you have to check and hold the paper against light, and hold the paper against to the light. Are you able to see this light faintly through this patch? Okay, when we are taking the paper, hold the paper against light. Are you able to see the light faintly and through this patch? Okay, when we are taking the paper, hold the paper against light, we can able to see the light faintly through this patch. And an oily patch on paper shows that the food items contains the fat. Based on that oily patch on the paper shows that the food item contains the fat. The food items may sometimes contain a little water. The food items may sometimes contains a little water. Okay, for the test of fat, what should we do? Take a small quantity of the food item and wrap it in a piece of paper and crush it. Take care that the paper does not tear. Now straighten the paper and observe it carefully. Does it have an oily patch? Hold the paper against light. Are you able to see the light faintly through this patch? Okay, an oily patch on paper shows that the food item contains the fat. The food items may sometimes contain a little water. Therefore after you have rubbed an item on after you have rubbed an item on paper, let the paper dry for a while. If there were any water that may have come from food, it would dry up after some time. If no oily patch shows up after this food item does not contain any fat. Okay, here after you have rubbed an item on paper, we can rub on the paper. Let the paper dry for a while. If there were any water that may have come from food, when we are rubbing in an item on paper, let the paper dry for a while. If there were any water that may have come from food. For suppose when we are rubbing, after that if it is in any water contain that food, means it will be come from food. It would be dry up after some time. After some time that it will be dry up. If no oily patch shows up after this, the food item does not contain any fat. Okay. For suppose if no oily patch shows up after this, the food item does not contain any fat. By this test we have to identify it is a containing that food item containing the fats or not. Next, what do these tests shows? Okay, we did this test. What do these tests show? Are fats, proteins and starch present in all the food items that you tested. Okay, before that we tested the food items contains the fats and proteins and starch. Okay, in the last class we have discussed about the starch and proteins. Okay, proteins, that color will be changed into violet color. If that food item contains the any proteins, means it will be changed with copper sulfate and caustic soda, it will be changed the violet color. Okay, with the iodine, for the test of starch we can test by the iodine solution. Iodine, that color will be changed into blue black color if it is contain the starch, means. Okay, so till now we are discussing about the how to test the proteins and starch and fats in all the food items that you tested. Yes, does a food item contains more than one nutrients? Okay, one food item is there, means it contains more than one nutrients. Yes, it is possible. If food item is there, means it will be contain, for suppose carbohydrates and fats also contain and proteins also contains. Okay, for suppose rice contains the carbohydrates and milk contains the proteins, vitamins, like that. More than one nutrients is possible in one food item. Yes, it is possible. Okay, does a food item contain more than one nutrients? Yes, we tested food items for 3 nutrients. What are the 3 nutrients? One is the carbohydrates and another one is the proteins and another one is the fats. Yes, we are tested the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates means that is a starch and proteins and fats. Okay, these are also other nutrients like vitamins. These are also other nutrients like vitamins and minerals that are present in different food items. Okay, so this is about the testing of test of the fats. Okay, thank you.